All right, welcome to Unit 1, Lesson 2 video on marine policies. This video, I'm going to preface this with that the topics that we cover in this lesson can be uncomfortable as it does touch on animal cruelty. We cover this to talk about why these policies were created. And it's so we can prevent these kind of things from happening. Sadly, people don't always make the best or kindest decisions. And so um, with that, people have decided that we do and can make changes to prevent these kind of things from happening again. So I can identify new policies and how new policies impact marine organisms. So the key policies that we're going to cover in this are Shark Finning Prohibition Act, whaling, and fishing. The history of shark finning. Shark fin soup is a traditional Chinese delicacy. This dish was a sign of high social status, and it was because it was rare and it was expensive. They didn't have a lot of the modern fishing stuff that we have nowadays that makes it a little easier to catch these animals. And so, if you could afford it, you were very high in the social status. These are often served at weddings, banquets, celebrations to honor guests. The fins themselves, however, are tasteless and they don't have any nutritional value. Um, However, it's that soup flavor that comes from it. It's a delicacy. And so, if you can prepare it correctly, they really do. It is really kind of that status symbol. Um, However, ancient Chinese medication or medicine, excuse me, thought it would bring good fortune, increase energy, prevent diseases, but there is no scientific basis to support that. This practice became more common as the middle and upper classes numbers increased, and so that increased that demand for luxury items. The ecological impact of shark finning. Sharks play a very important role in maintaining prey populations in an ecosystem. However, they're not covered underneath the Marine Mammal Protection Act because they're fish, not mammals. And so these sharks really started to see an impact that was occurring on them. And the loss of sharks started to affect those habitats and food chains. And so we decided that there was something that needed to be done. It's estimated that 73 to 100 million sharks are killed each year. This results in many of these shark species becoming critically endangered or endangered. So, the Shark Finning Prohibition Act of 2000, this was passed here in Congress in the United States. It prevents the fishing of sharks in the waters of the U.S. oceans. We cannot regulate international waters or anything like that. That has to be an international law, and that's not something the U.S. itself has the power to do by itself. The reason we banned it, here's why. Not only because of the 80 to 100 million sharks that were removed from the water, but because of the barbaric practice that occurs with it. We, as people, we would remove the shark fins when the animal was still alive, and then it would throw the shark back into the ocean to drown. And this barbaric process has led to the endangerment of many species of shark, making them the most endangered of any marine animal. And so things were decided that had to be done, and even in fishing practices and other things, it is required by law that those animals are humanely put down, not just killed in the most creative way possible. The Chinese government banned shark fin soup from official state functions in 2012, so it took them 12 years past what the U.S. decided. But tradition is hard to overcome, and you'll find this in natural resources. Tradition is hard to overcome. But however, despite it being still served sometimes in mainland China, the public outcry from celebrities and others that tradition is slowly changing, and hopefully eventually will go away entirely. Whaling is a process of hunting and killing a whale, and it's done by many groups of people since the early age of man. So it's not a U.S. problem. It's a worldwide thing that we've done. Unlike shark finning, however, we use the whole whale. So some things that we use the whale parts for would be whale oil. So we use it for lighthouses, lubricating machinery. Of course, lighthouses. This was before the light bulb really became a huge thing. As far as being able to make as big of a light as you would need for a lighthouse. Baleen was also known as whalebone. It's used for corsets and umbrellas. And then other whale parts were used for food, soap, and even fertilizer. So the problem that we had with whaling was that we would kill too many of them. So we estimate that 80,000 whales were killed annually, nowhere near on the number as it was for sharks and shark finning. However, There are not as many whales and whale populations as there are shark populations, so that's why there's such a big difference in the numbers. This overhunting caused a near extinction of the blue whale and other whale populations, but the blue whale was the one that we saw the most of, dropping it to by 98%. And it wasn't even until 1986 that there were major, large legal efforts that were put in place to be able to curb those huntings of the whale. We do still have some countries that still practice and participate in whaling, but it's nowhere near on the scale that it used to be. Commercial whaling, history and regulations. Many countries have worked to enact policies that protect whales from whaling, mostly because people look at them and they go, oh, they're so pretty, they're awesome, they're amazing. And so the public opinion can really sway these policies. However, whaling does still occur. Like I said, there's still some countries that practice it. There are no direct policies concerning only whales. We have the Marine Mammal Protection Act, which covers that, and some addendums with that, but there's nothing that is specific only to whales. There are some gray areas for interpretation for this, though, and this Marine Mammal Protection Act states that there shouldn't have any human interaction that would change the behavior of marine mammals. However, ecotourism is a thing and oftentimes occurs outside of the United States, but you can still do ecotourism even within aquariums and other places. Overfishing and unsustainable practices. So when we fish and people eat and consume fish, obviously you have to get it from somewhere. So when we overfish, we reduce that fish population, which means that it can no longer sustainably bring in new individuals into a population. And so then we have the threat of a collapse of a marine ecosystem. That threat to food security is a huge thing. If we overfish an area, we have a declining fish stocks, which then result in less food. And then if you continue to fish more, then you just reduce it more until there's nothing left. And so these unsustainable fishing practices have led to efforts by countries to prevent overfishing, to allow for populations to continue to grow and to do what they need to. In live lecture, we covered this tragedy of commons simulation, or you can pause it here and you can go into this link and try it out for yourselves. It's an interesting thing to see what would happen in fishing in areas that have too much fishing and not enough letting it populate itself. So it's some things and ways that we manage populations. We have a quota implementation. So there's a reason when you get your fishing license, you're only allowed to take a certain number of individuals or a certain size of individuals. There's a reason for, if you watch The Greatest or Deadliest Catch, there's a reason there's a quota for how many crab can be taken out of an area. The size of the crab matters. Whether or not it's producing eggs, if it has eggs. So lobster, they have to check for eggs and throw them back because you want the population to continue to grow. And if you remove a female with eggs, actually destroy that population. Protected marine areas. So there are areas that are regulated, that there is no fishing allowed. There's no recreation. There's no anything. It is specific for marine organisms to be able to grow and thrive without human interaction. And then, of course, we have ecosystem monitoring. You'll have people, ecologists, marine ecologists go into areas, tracking ecosystems, tracking populations within those ecosystems, seeing what it's going to be and tracking whether or not this is going to be a sustainable management of certain things. So that's why hunting tags and fishing tags, if you fish for certain specialized kind of fish, you do have to have specialized tags for some things like sturgeon. And it's required, and the reason for that is because then they can track the number of populations, and that's why you turn in your deer tag or to show that you actually caught your deers, because they track how many of the population actually was removed, and so we track those populations. So that's it for this section of lesson. If you have any questions, reach out, and we'll see you in the next one.